Hi people, I've just discovered a lovely post here. It's very long. The topic is transsexuality as intersex theory, written by somebody else. And they say at the end of the post that they're, what did they say exactly? They say, note that all information provided here is mostly my own opinion. It is not one to take medical decisions on, and I am in no way an authority in psychology, psychiatry, biology, neurobiology, or anything really. Data is taken from many sources relatively recently, but I cannot say it is 100% reliable. Yeah, if you have any comment, positive, negative, or simply corrections and suggestions, feel free to tell me. I think that's very well written. So, it seems to be a popular assumption amongst some, and while I will acknowledge that there is not irrefutable proof of a biological origin to transsexuality, it's damn well likely that there is somewhere. Firstly, some statistics. Cross-dressing is said to account for roughly 10% of the general population, most being heterosexual male, but this is debatable considering the length a female has to go to be considered as cross-dressing, if even she would be then. Transsexuality is said to account for roughly 0.4% to 0.2%, 1 in 2,500 to 1 in 500 of the general population. Prevalence says it's mostly XY individuals, but this is debatable. 47XXY, or relative variations of chromosomes, are said to account for roughly 0.1% to 0.2%, 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 500 of individuals considered male. Individuals will mostly identify as male, but a higher proportion seems to suffer from either gender confusion or gender dysphoria. Some transition to female either before or after knowing of the condition, usually independently of it being known. Also, I just add to that whole sentence, myself, Gavin here, is that there's 47XXY females already with those chromosomes. Complete AIS is said to account for roughly 0.005% of the population, 1 in 20,000 of genetic XY births. Partial AIS grade 1 to 6 has no real prevalence data. It is said that it should be as much or more prevalent than complete AIS. Mild AIS grade 1 is considered the same in prevalence as partial AIS, but there also is no data. Studies seem to have shown that amongst diagnosed individuals of mild AIS, gender identity is male in 90 to 95% of instances, and female in 5 to 10% of such instances. The latter, female gender identity, is usually ignored or unknown. I would argue that some male to female transsexuals could easily be accounted for in some of the less easier to detect conditions, sometime as a new, usually milder variation of the said condition. 47XXY can be detected by karyotype, simply. A test that counts the amount of chromosomes present in a given blood sample cells. It is not 100% reliable, but reliable enough, I think. Human error is possible. It particularly will count all autosomes and sex chromosomes, but more attention is usually paid to the latter, unless there is an autosomal trisomy associated with other genetic conditions, usually accompanying health problems. A trisomy is a 3 of a kind of the normally 2 of a kind chromosome pair in any of the pairs, including the 23rd, but rarely is it called that for the 23rd. Complete AIS is detected by karyotype 2, most usually simply because the complete AIS form is genetically and phenotypically female. While there is no uterus or ovaries, there are internal testes producing testosterone, which is aromatized to estrogen because it's not absorbed by the body, so the body regulates itself to make use of it. Because of said immunity to androgens, the ones affected by the condition will have sparse body hair, no pubic hair, no armpit hair, and of course no facial hair, chest hair, or such either. They will usually develop with a normal female puberty. If testes are left untouched, they will not require exogenous hormones for it. Partial AIS can be mostly female, ambiguous, or mostly male, in phenotype and genitals. The ambiguous forms will be most apparent at birth, while the others may go unseen for a while. Mild AIS will usually not be detected because genitals look normal, even if a delay in development and a lack of pubertal virilization is seen. It will generally not be considered as an intersex condition by many doctors ignorant of the condition. Symptoms that might make mild AIS known are breast growth at puberty for one raised as male, and infertility. Both are possibilities and not absolute. All previously discussed forms of AIS will have a 46XY karyotype, although rarely 47XXY and AIS is a possibility. Since 46XY is a normal male karyotype, phenotypically male forms without genital ambiguity are harder to detect, because karyotype will only narrow the scope of possibilities, including the possibility that there is nothing. Particularly likely amongst younger transitioners, or those who would have transitioned young but couldn't due to a physical impossibility, i.e. prison, internment, absence of medication, blah blah blah. Mild or partial AIS will account for a more feminine appearance, or rather a less masculine and more androgynous appearance than normally expected. Also a more youthful one, even post-puberty. Gender identity could be male, female, androgynous, and if the environment is liberal enough, transition as a young to late teen or in early 20s is a possibility. Typically, especially those with a female gender identity will have trouble passing as a boy, even wearing boys' clothes. They might often be mistaken as girls because of their delicate features and manners. One could argue that the mythic primary transsexual that Harry Benjamin first introduced in his early works in 1952 and 1966 would also have an intersex condition. I would personally argue that transsexuals who transition for the right reasons, whether they transition early or late but without obvious symptoms of intersex, would still be intersex, if only in their brain, and one would argue their spirit. A personal theory, although it might not be a real theory since it can't be proven or disproven, is that a spirit, whether it reborns many times or only once, would have a determined gender at conception, and it would affect the birth outcome and gender identity outside any physical factors. Or even it could influence physical factors. It's not foreign to some to consider prayer or faith as a method to heal even terminal illnesses, which resulted in what people then called miracles. Spiritual strength falls outside the realm of what can be reliably studied, but it is nonetheless interesting to consider it as a possibility. The popular psychopathology theory, which casts transsexuals as simply mentally ill and unable to just accept their birth sex, is losing support, as even the many central authorities governing transition protocols agree that it is not a mental illness. It can also not be proven right or wrong, but it can be given or taken credit in the form of personal experience perception, including that of others, friends, family. Once they understand who the real you is, do they still question the legitimacy outside any prejudice? And testimonials. I guess this is as good as a post it gets for now, and I've already read you the last line. So thank you very much. I'll give the name there, Sarah. Thank you very much. I also know you from XXY Talk, and of course I haven't seen you in a year because I was banned. I think that's excellent. Thank you, and more to come.